All right, so we are picking up for the stuff like 21 through 26 says to rewrite the expression without the double angles or half angles given that 0 is less than theta less than pi over 2. That means that we're in quadrant 1.
I like quadrant 1.
Okay, so it just means basically everything's positive. So 22, we have sine of 2 theta over 2 cosine theta. And so we need to get rid of any double or half angles and then basically simplify it down as far as we can. So,
What do you mean simplify? Is that using that stuff that we learned that one time?
just like canceling stuff out that cancels.
We can do that. That's easy.
Ew, that is not easy.
All right, so sine of 2 theta can be rewritten as what?
2 sine theta? Right? 1 minus cosine?
Nope. Sine of 2 theta can be rewritten as what?
2 sine theta. I don't know. That's what I said.
Hold on. Hold
Is
on.
it-
Let me check my
It's a formula, so look at your formulas.
Wait. Oh, I don't have the double ones written. 1 minus cosine? No. I already said that.
Hold on.
I'm officially sad.
This is not the same thing as this.
Is it tangent 2?
Is it the double formula?
It's 2 sine A times cosine of A.
Yes, 2 sine theta cosine theta divided by 2 cosine theta.
How did you know that?
It's a formula that I gave in the beginning of the notes.
And so it is.
All right, so then stuff cancels. 2's cancel, cosines cancel, leaving me with
Sine of theta.
sine theta.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay, that makes it some more.
That wasn't terrible, but I know that it always gets harder.
All right, 24 cosine of 2 theta over sine of theta minus cosine of theta. Okay, so here I'm going to remind you that the cosine of 2 theta has 3 different possibilities.
Not matters what we pick.
Okay?
We want it to help.
Yes, in a sense it does because we want something that's going to help simplify things down. So I'm going to go up since there's 3 options and we'll look at
The
them.
last one.
Okay, so we've got 1 minus 2 sine squared. That's not really going to do anything for us. 2 cosine squared minus 1. Again, that's not really going to help us to cancel anything out. But cosine squared minus sine squared, at least it looks kind of like the bottom. Okay, the bottom's got sine minus cosine, so at least we're kind of on the same path. So let's use that one. Okay, so like if I had been only involving sine on the bottom, I would have used the one that was the sine squared option. Okay, if it had just had cosine, I would have used the cosine squared option. But since this one has both, I'm using the one that has both. Okay, because I want to be able to get it as simple as possible.
And the other ones, like the ones we did before this, it doesn't matter. Like, which one?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like necessarily that your answer is wrong, but you can't get it as simplified as it's supposed to be
Yeah.
if you pick the wrong one. So, all right. So this one was cosine squared. Oops, other color. Cosine squared minus theta minus sine squared of theta over sine of theta minus cosine of theta.
Okay, so doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't like the sine and the cosine on the bottom go away and then you're left with just cosine theta
Nope.
minus sine theta?
Because there's
You
something with
cannot
the
do
negative
that because
signs
they're
that
being
doesn't
added
go
and
up.
subtracted.
Makes sense.
Okay.
You see the conjugate?
What does the top kind of look like?
1!
So it's
No.
1. Oh, it is.
-1.
Nope.
Sad.
What does the top kind of look like? Something that we did back in like chapter 4.
The theorem.
Cosine squared plus sine.
What theorem?
The Pythagorean
Quadratic.
If I gave you, what would you tell me that is?
Oh.
How could I break that up?
Why?
Factoring. Okay, what would that give me?
X minus y, x minus y. Or x plus y, x minus
x minus y, x plus y. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing, but using cosine and sine instead. Okay, so a lot of this is looking at things that we've done before and saying, how can I rewrite this to make this look like what I'm used to? Okay, so this gives me cosine theta minus sine theta times cosine theta plus sine theta all over sine theta minus cosine theta. Now, is there something top and bottom that can cancel?
Mhm.
Yes. No. Yes.
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. Well, you will get there, but not yet. There's one more thing that we need to do. Okay? This piece here and this piece here, okay, both have negative signs, but it's on the opposite trig functions. So what I'm going to do is on the bottom one, I'm going to pull out a negative sign.
Oh, and then.
Okay? So the bottom is going to be rewritten as, okay, I'm going to rewrite the top. The bottom now, I'm pulling out a negative, so I now have negative times cosine of theta. Okay, I took out a negative, so cosine of theta becomes positive. But because I took out a negative, sine of theta is now negative. So taking out the negative allows me to switch them and switch their signs, but that negative sign has to stay out front. Okay, do we see what I did there? Because I don't want to keep going if we don't see what happened. Everybody's good? No questions there? Because I need to be able to cancel this top and bottom, and to do that I need to switch their signs. So now this piece cancels with this piece. So I'm technically left with a negative 1 on the bottom, but it's 1 on the bottom. I can just take the negative sign to the top. Okay, so I now have negative parentheses cosine theta plus sine theta. And you can either leave it that way, or we can rewrite it as negative cosine theta minus sine theta. Okay, either of those options is acceptable.
I have two questions. One, how come we had to pull out a negative to cancel that?
Because I needed to get their signs to be the same so I could cancel them.
Okay, and then also when we pulled out the negative, so I guess we're just able to add another one because we.
Well, I took a negative out of both pieces, but one of them was positive, so taking a negative out of it made it negative,
Okay.
basically. I essentially divided by a negative, is
Okay.
what happened. And as long as I do it to both pieces, I'm allowed to do that. Cool?
Mhm.
Good.
Comprende.
All right, a little harder.
Oh.
26. 2 sine of theta over 2 cosine of theta over 2 is equal to, okay, now for something like this, okay, I now have two half angles that are being multiplied by each other. So my 2 is staying out front. What is happening? I think the pencil just died. How exciting.
Wait, you have to charge that thing?
Yeah. And at the moment, it's probably not gonna do it through the, well, it might charge for a second. Just give it a minute. Okay, we'll just talk about it for a second, and then I'll write it when it gets like 5% charged.
How long does it take to charge?
It'll give me enough to finish class in like probably a minute. All right, so we have two half angles here, okay? So I'm gonna basically be taking the two half angle formulas that I have, and I'm going to be multiplying them by each other. Okay, now what is true about the half angle formulas here? What do they look like?
Positive. Let's go ahead.
Okay, they're going to be positive because we said we're from 0 to pi over 2.
Is that actually the answer you wanted?
Well, sort of, but what do they look like? Like, what is their answer, or what is their formula?
It's the square root.
Okay, they're square roots. Okay, but they're being multiplied. So what does that mean that I can do with them?
No more square roots?
No.
You can divide them, right?
If I'm multiplying things underneath a square root, can I combine them?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay, if I was adding them, I could not, but because I'm multiplying, I can. Okay.
And they'll still square root.
Yeah, so I'm going to be multiplying them. And then I'll be able to go through and simplify some stuff.
So doesn't the sign go away? Because half the angle you use cosine.
Do what?
Like for half angles, the formula for sine is cosine. So the sine goes away, right?
Formula for sine is cosine.
It's 1 minus cosine A over 2 for sine. So there's no sine in the formula. So is there no more sine?
Well, okay, yes. You're going to only be left with cosines. Yes. I was misunderstanding your question, but yes. Oh my goodness, did it really just die again? Okay, we're going to need to give it a second.
So we're multiplying both of these to get a single number, and then we're basically taking the square root of that and simplifying it until we get down to another single answer.
So we're going to have a little break
Yes.
here.
Yes. How about y'all try to do it while this charges for a second, and then we'll go over it.
Can you tell us the formula?
Yeah, could you?
Yeah, it'll be 2 times the square root of 1 minus cosine theta divided by 2. Okay, all that's under the first radical. 1 under the square root. 1 minus cosine of theta is on top. Still under the radical, but on the bottom of the fraction, it's a 2. Okay, everybody should be writing this down because I'm not going to say it again. Okay, then the other one, the cosine of theta over 2, is the square root of 1 plus the cosine of theta divided by 2. You need to do this problem.
But I don't know how to do it in that.
I literally just told you what to write down. After that, it's simple algebra.
Can you repeat the second one that you said?
Yes, the square root of 1 plus the cosine of theta divided by 2, all under the radical.
Thank you.
So it's the same as the sine one, it's just positive instead of negative.
That was
You still have the 2
sine
on
and
the
cosine.
cosine. I'll
Yeah.
just write, would you say that?
Yeah, the 2 is out front still that it's being multiplied by.
Why do I not understand how to
Thank you.
do this?
I'm lost.
Me too. I just see the formula and I don't understand how to solve it.
Multiply this up under the radical.
Okay, I did that, but now I don't know what to do.
That makes
I
sense.
somehow got an I, so I think I did something wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Um,
Okay, under the radical, then combine everything together. Okay. I'll answer questions in a minute, not right now. Okay, you're just like you're multiplying fractions. Just basically throw a huge radical there and then multiply top stuff together, multiply bottom stuff together. Okay, which is going to involve some factoring. And then it'll cancel really nicely for you.
do this without. Okay.
Okay.
That's the first and second.
Wait, so what did the 2 cosine squared?
Like when we had
Apparently,
the,
most of y'all have already forgotten how to factor.
when we had the 3, 4, 5.
Probably.
Some of you just couldn't listen to me tell you how to write down the problem, and or chose not to listen to me. I'm not really sure which one it was, but all right. So, for those of you that listened, you know that this is what it's supposed to look like. So like I said, we're going to multiply everything underneath the radical. So this is going to be 2 times the square root of 1 minus cosine of theta times 1 plus the cosine of theta
Oh, I forgot the 2.
over
That's why
4.
it's weird.
This is the difference of squares on top. So I've got 1 minus cosine squared theta divided by 4. This radical can be broken up top and bottom to be separate. So 2 times the square root of 1 minus cosine squared is sine squared divided by 2. 2's cancel. Square root of sine squared is sine theta.
I have a question. Is the only reason why there's a 2 on the outside because in the original thing it says 2 times sine? Okay, that's why I was confused. Because you said that and then I wrote it and then when I went to look back to make sure I had it right, I didn't see it.
Now we knew that the thing was signed because of the Pythagorean identity, right? So that's how.
I forgot about the division.
The most common problem I saw was people forgetting how to do a difference of squares.
I just didn't
Yeah.
multiply.
Okay, we certainly cannot forget how to factor. Okay, next year will not be fun if you do not know how to factor. So,
I just subtracted and then multiply it all. And I was right. Okay, so
all right.
I don't know what about that problem confused me so much.
We are done with that. So,
We are done.
whoa. Add it on to what you had. $21, $23, and $25.